Hello, hello, friends. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name is Trians, or Tri for short. Preferred pronouns they, them, but any and all are acceptable. Welcome back to another episode of Such a Brew About Nothing, a Magic the Gathering podcast, where I talk about different commander decks that I've built. And because I like magic, that's something that I've liked for a long time now. Do want to let everybody know we have ads incoming in a few minutes. If you don't want to watch ads, there's a few ways you can do that. First and foremost, being by subscribing. It's like $6 a month, and you get 20 free emotes that you get to use all across Twitch. We are in the month of our PG August because we've been playing through. We played through Final Fantasy VII this month, and are currently working through Final Fantasy VIII. So we brought back all of the fan favorite Final Fantasy emotes that we have on the channel, and you can use them everywhere, all across Twitch. But maybe you're already subscribed and you want to pay it forward and help somebody else not watch ads. You too can give subscriptions. It's a great way of helping out the community and helping somebody else avoid those pesky ads. On top of that, if you have Amazon Prime, you get a free subscription to a Twitch channel of your choice every month with Twitch Prime. Why not consider this channel? I think it's pretty good, but I'm also pretty biased. On top of that, Twitch Turbo is a great way of watching ad-free across all of Twitch, and Twitch then pays the streamer the same amount as if a tier 1 sub is watching during a scheduled ad break. So it's pretty neat that you get to watch ad-free and they still help make the content that you know and love. On top of those, listen, I get it. The economy's a mess right now. Those are out of your price range, but you still want to toss a coin to your streamer. You can do so in the form of bits. It's a great way of saying, hey, I like what you do. Keep doing it without breaking the bank. But want to stress that any and all financial support on this channel is always appreciated, but never required. Just the fact that you're here engaging in the chat like the comfy crew, or quietly lurking and being entertained, or watching the VODs on Twitch or YouTube, or even just putting this as your second screen content, throwing this up on your second monitor while you do whatever around the house, all of that support truly means the fucking world to me. You mean the fucking world to me. Well, without further ado, friends, we have a couple of magic decks to talk about today. Two very thematic, if you've ever heard the legend of King George and the Dragon. Both kind of vaguely inspired by that, I guess you could say, because one of them, we have a red, black, green, or Jund Dragons deck, and we have a Wooburg, or all 5 color, Knights deck that we're going to talk about today. So we still got a little bit of time before those ads kick in. I've already explained how to get past watching them. Beyond that, I can't really help you any more than that, you know? Listen, Twitch is a mandatory, like, ads are a mandatory part of Twitch. But we do think if you stick through those ads, we do run only 3 minutes of ads every hour, just to keep pre-rolls off the channel, so that when somebody first clicks to watch the content, they're not immediately met with ads. So thank you for sticking through that. But without further ado, let's get this camera flipped around, and we'll talk about some magic cards, shall we? All right. There we go. Readjust there a little bit. Perfect. So, up first, we're going to be talking about our Jund Dragon deck. This is helmed by Korvold Fade-Cursed King. Korvold costs 2 black, red, green for a 4/4 legendary Dragon Noble. This is one of 2 decks that will be helmed by a Noble today. And Korvold has flying. It's 4/4. Typical, pretty straightforward Dragon stats overall. And when Korvold Fade-Cursed King enters the battlefield or attacks, you sacrifice another permanent. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hey, I don't want to get rid of my stuff. I like my stuff. I need my stuff to win the game. But whenever you sacrifice a permanent, you put a +1/+1 counter on Korvold and draw a card. So this deck isn't your traditional Korvold sacrifice everything, get tons of value type stuff. It does have some of that, but we primarily focus on doing dragon shenanigans. Sorry, one sec there. Update the title. There we go. Had a spelling error in there. Oops. Hey, you know, I'm only human. There we go. Turn the volume down just a little bit on the music. Hopefully the audio quality is a little bit better on this episode. I don't know what happened on the last one. The audio is super crunchy. I don't know what happened. I didn't do anything differently. So hopefully it's fixed now. Time will tell. But that's Korvold. So we do some sacrifice stuff, but primarily this is just a dragon commander at the helm of a dragon commander deck. Speaking of payoffs, though, since we are going to be doing sacrifice things anyway, you got to have a couple other payoffs, because if somebody winds up killing your commander, well, now you're just kind of up the creek. So we have Mazarek Kral Death Priest, 3 black-green for a 2/2 legendary insect shaman with flying. So again, we're getting more big flyers. And whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So you're boosting your whole board rather than just a singular creature. So it also helps Korvold there, who gets a 1/1 counter and draws you a card. But then if you also have Mazarek out, you'd get 2 1/1 counters on Korvold. Possibly trying to get, big dragon and get the win even faster. Next after that is Ilharg the Raised Boar, 3 red for a 6/6 legendary boar god with trample. And whenever Ilharg the Raised Boar attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, and you return that creature to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. And when Ilharg the Raised Boar dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library third from the top. So even if you kill it, it just is going to wind up coming back. Why is this here? Well, because this deck has a very high, it's a thirsty mana curve. So the ability to attack with Ilharg and be able to drop a dragon out for free to get its value is kind of a necessary thing in this deck. Next up is Golbez Clad in Darkness, 3 black for a 5/4 legendary human knight. This is the Final Fantasy reprint of Sir Conrad the Grim. And says, whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, so from hand or from exile, what have you, or whenever a creature card leaves your graveyard, so if you reanimate it, Golbez deals 1 damage to each opponent. And you can pay 1 and a black, and each player mails a card. So this is additional payoff for all of the sacrificing we're going to be doing. And if you happen to sacrifice a creature, you want to be able to get some chip damage out of that. Plus, because we do so much sacrificing, there are not a bunch, but there are a couple of reanimation pieces in the deck. And we want to be able to get them back out and get some additional payoff. But now, let's talk about dragons, because that is the whole point of this deck. So up first we have Cloth Unrivaled Ancient, 5 red-green for a 4/4 legendary dragon with flying and haste. And when Cloth Unrivaled Ancient attacks, add X mana in any combination of colors, where X is the total power of attacking creatures. And you spend this mana only to cast spells. And until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So this is one of those perfect creatures you want to drop into play with Ilhard, for example. Because you'll be up, or well, no, actually, now that I look at it, I forgot about the attack trigger. This doesn't trigger off of Ilhard, but you want to have this out and maybe attack with Ilhard, because then you're going to get 6 mana off of Ilhard, and when you attack with Cloth, that's another 4. That's 10 mana that you can use for the rest of your turn. Next up is a Tarka World Render. 5 red-green for a 6/4 legendary dragon with flying and trample, and whenever a dragon you control attacks, it gains double strike until end of turn. This one you really like having out when you have a few counters on Korvold. If you get, Korvold starts as a 4/4. So just on entering, you have to sacrifice something. Korvold will then become a 5/5. If you have a Tarka out, Korvold is a 5/5 double strike. 10 damage from a commander is not nothing in a single attack. Plus, when, actually, it'd be more than that, because when Korvold attacks, you'd have to sacrifice something again. So it would be a 6/6 double strike. That's 12 commander damage. If Korvold hits you twice while a Tarka is out, that's game over. Moving on, we have Jugon the Rising Star, 3 green for a 5/5 legendary dragon spirit with flying, and when Jugon the Rising Star dies, you may distribute 5 +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures. So basically, his power gets distributed as 1/1 counters wherever you like in your board. After that is Junji the Midnight Sky, 3 black for a 5/5 legendary dragon spirit with flying and menace. And when Junji the Midnight Sky dies, you choose one. Either each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life, or you put target non-dragon creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and you lose 2 life. So this can be a great way to get back maybe one of your non-dragon creatures, or take one of your opponent's really good creatures that dies. Maybe you block them with Junji, and Junji kills one of their good creatures. They kill Junji. Hey, look at that. Now I'm going to get your creature back. Next up, we have the Double Dragons, Ran and Shaw. 3 red for a 4/4 legendary dragon with flying and firebending 2. So we saw this when we talked about the Aang Avatar deck, the ally deck. Firebending is when this creature attacks, you get 2 red mana that you have to use in combat. So it's good for use for your instant spells. Primarily combat tricks is where you see it used most commonly. Or if you have some kind of mana sink to pour it into, you could also use it there. But when Ran and Shaw enter, if you cast them and there are 3 or more dragon and or lesson cards in your graveyard, you create a token that's a copy of Ran and Shaw, except it's not legendary. So again, we're playing with the graveyard. We're doing sacrifice stuff. We have lots of dragons. 3 of your dragons get sacrificed due to Korvold. You drop Ran and Shaw. You got 2 Ran and Shaws. That's 2 flying firebending 2s that are 4/4s, and has, for 3 and a red, dragons you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. Hey, if you have Ran and Shaw and a copy of Ran and Shaw, and you attack with both of them, you generated 4 red mana. You pump that into this, and now all of your dragons are +2/0. Look at that. It's like they designed it to feed its own ability. Oh, one too many cards there. Next up is Atsushi the Blazing Sky, 2 red for a 4/4 legendary dragon spirit with flying and trample, and when Atsushi the Blazing Sky dies, choose one. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. So you basically get a 2-card impulse draw. Or create 3 treasure tokens. Now, most commonly, you're probably creating treasure tokens. because this deck really likes having treasure tokens, because Korvold wants you to sacrifice things. And treasure tokens you tap and sacrifice to make mana, which then makes Korvold bigger and draws you cards. So you typically want to always be using treasures as often as you can. Moving on, we have Laughless Dragon Queen, 4 red for a 6/6 legendary dragon with flying. And whenever another non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. So just by playing other dragons, you're making dragons. It's a real nice way to fill up the board with a bunch of flying dragons. And for only 1 and a red, dragons you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. This has typically been referred to as fire breathing. The 1 and a red get +1/+0, but it affects all of your dragons. So even if you'll have Laughless and 1 Wren and Shaw, you can attack with them, use the 2 mana from the 1 dragon, pump it there. Everything's +1/+0. All the dragons breathe fire. Next up, we have Gadrek the Crown Scourge, 2 and a red for a 5/4 legendary dragon with flying. And Gadrek the Crown Scourge can't attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. Again, feeding into that, we want treasure tokens. At the beginning of your end step, you create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. So because we are in a Korvold deck, we want to sacrifice things. If you're sacrificing a creature, you get treasures for them. So it helps pay off that strategy. Moving on, we have Fang, Roku's Companion, 3 red for a 4/4 legendary dragon with flying. And whenever Fang attacks, another target legendary creature you control gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is Fang's power. Love to put that on a Korvold or an Atarka. And when Fang dies, if he wasn't a spirit, return this card to the battlefield under your control. He's a spirit in addition to his other types. So your opponents have to kill this dragon twice if they want to get rid of it. When it comes back as a spirit, it's a spirit dragon. Still has the pump ability there. So you love a good double use, because you could sacrifice this to Korvold, and it's just going to return as a spirit dragon. Moving on into the last couple legendaries, we have our Planeswalkers. This is Sarkhan Dragon Soul, 4 red for a 5 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Sarkhan. +2 loyalty, Sarkhan Dragon Soul deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature your opponents control. So if you're against a Goblin deck or a White Weenie deck, any of those, 1 power or 1 toughness token decks that your opponents have, this can just completely ruin their board. For -3 loyalty, Sarkhan Dragon Soul deals 4 damage to target player or Planeswalker. So you get a nice little direct damage spell or ability there. And for the big one, -9, search your library for any number of dragon creature cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Beautiful. In a deck full of dragons, if that ultimate pops off, that can be game, because you're not even casting them, you are putting them into play. So your opponents cannot counter that. They can counter the ability, but they can't counter you dropping all those dragons into play. And our final Planeswalker, Wrenn 6, red and a green for a 3 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Wrenn. +1 loyalty, return up to 1 target land from your graveyard to your hand. -1 loyalty, Wrenn 6 deals 1 damage to any target. And for -7, you get an emblem with instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard have Retrace. Retrace is you discard a land card and you can recast the spell from your graveyard. So it kind of feeds itself there, where you can discard a land from your hand to retrace one of your instants or sorceries. Then you could plus tick your Planeswalker, get that land back, and do that again. But because we are doing a lot of sacrifice things, there are some lands in here that like to sacrifice themselves, and we want to be able to get those back to get extra value out of them. Moving on into our non-legendary creatures. Starting off, we have Savage Ventmaw. 4 red-green for a 4/4 dragon with flying. When Savage Ventmaw attacks, add red, 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 green, green, green until end of turn. And you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So it costs 6 for a 4/4, but when it attacks, you get 6 mana. So effectively, the creature pays for itself the first turn that it can attack, and can help you get even more dragons out. Next after that is the Dragonborn Champion, 2 red-green for a 5/3 Dragon Warrior with Trample, and whenever a source you control deals 5 or more damage to a player, draw a card. We've got a lot of dragons that deal 5 or more damage, and this creature here deals 5 damage if it gets through, so you could potentially draw quite a few cards with the champion. Next up is the Immersturm Predator, 2 black-red, one of the rare black dragons in this deck, for a 3/3 Vampire Dragon with flying. Whenever Immersturm Predator becomes tapped, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter on Immersturm Predator. So you get a little graveyard hate for your opponents, or for yours if you need. Maybe you have Korvold out and you want to remove a creature from your graveyard just to get that extra chip damage and get a 1/1 counter. But also has sacrifice another creature. Immersturm Predator gains indestructible until end of turn, but you have to tap it. So instant speed sacrifice in exchange for indestructibility is pretty nice, especially when we have a commander that likes when we sacrifice. Next up is a newer addition to the deck. This is from the Lord of the Rings set, but is one of the reprints from The Hobbit. This is Cavern Horde Dragon. 7 red, red. So whopping 9 mana for a 6/6 dragon. But the spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest number of artifacts an opponent controls. So in Commander, your opponents are probably going to have at least a couple artifacts. So if an opponent has their Soul Ring out and maybe a couple treasures, maybe you're facing against a food deck that really loves making their artifact tokens, that could drop the cost of this quite a bit. And the creature has flying, trample, and haste, so it can attack the turn it comes down. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token for each artifact that player controls. So now it even punishes them for overdoing it on their artifacts. So now you have a flying, trample, haste 6/6 that's going to make you treasures equal to however many they have. Great news for us if your opponents are in food token shenanigans. Next up is Skyline Despot, 5 red, red for a 5/5 dragon with flying. When Skyline Despot enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Monarch is a mechanic that was introduced a few years back. Basically, whoever has the monarchy, they get to draw a card on their end step. But whenever a player deals combat damage to the monarch, they become the monarch. So it trades hands pretty frequently. It kind of incentivizes players to attack each other. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you're the monarch, you create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. So if you end your turn as the monarch, hey, you get to draw a card. If you wind up keeping the monarchy until your next turn, great, you're getting another 5/5. Even easier to keep that monarchy. Now you're getting bodies to help defend you. Next up is Dragon Master Outcast, 1 red for a 1/1 human shaman. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 6 or more lands, create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. Like I said, we're in a very mana-thirsty deck. As soon as you get 6 lands, hey, now we're just getting rewards for having lands. Next up is Scourge of Valkus, 2 red for a 4/4 dragon with flying. And whenever Scourge of Valkus or another dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of dragons you control. So we're getting rewards just for playing dragons. And has your classic fire breathing. 1 red mana, Scourge of Valkus gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So you can just dump your red mana into this guy, make him huge, and potentially try to kill an opponent. After that is Horde Smelter Dragon, 4 red for a 5/5 dragon with flying, and has 3 and a red, destroy target artifact. Horde Smelter Dragon gets +X/+0 until end turn, where X is that artifact's mana value. This is just mainly in here just in case your opponent has something incredibly problematic. You're probably not spending 4 to destroy a treasure token or a clue. But maybe your opponent has a big mana artifact that you need to get rid of. Did they just drop a mere battle sphere? For 4 mana, you can destroy it and gain a bonus to your attack value equal to its mana cost. Next is the classic, the original dragon. This is Shivan Dragon, 4 red for a 5/5 dragon with flying, and has fire breathing. So red mana, Shivan Dragon gets +1/+0 until end of turn. This was the classic alpha dragon from the original Magic set. This printing is not from alpha, but this is the OG red dragon. Next is Skyship Stalker, 2 red for a 3/3 dragon with flying, and has a few different options for a single red mana. First of which, red mana Skyship Stalker gets +1/+0 until end of turn, so fire breathing. Another 1 red mana Skyship Stalker gains first strike until end of turn. And finally, 1 red mana Skyship Stalker gains haste until end of turn. So you could, in theory, have a 5 mana 3/3 with haste swinging the turn it comes down. You can give it first strike if you need it as a blocker to have it take something out. And you can always pump its attack power at instant speed. Very good modality. After that, we have Terror of Mount Velis, 5 red for a 5/5 dragon with flying and double strike. So it's actually hitting for 10. And when Terror of Mount Velis enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn. Whole board. This can end a game. If you got enough dragons in play and 7 mana, you could drop this one creature and end the game on the spot. If you got a bunch of 5/5 dragons in play and suddenly they're all hitting for 10, in a 4-player game with everybody at max at their starting health, it's only going to take you 12 dragons to kill the table, provided they don't have any blockers or flyers or anything. But still, that can be a big time game ender. Next up, we have Thunderbreak Regent, 2 red for a 4/4 dragon with flying. Whenever a dragon you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, Thunderbreak Regent deals 3 damage to that player. So again, some protection. If your opponents are trying to kill your dragons, well, now they're taking a lightning bolt, 3 damage. So a little extra protection for our creatures. Next, we have Rakdos Pit Dragon, 2 red for a 3/3 dragon. You could pay red. Rakdos Pit Dragon gains flying until end of turn. So you do have to pay if you want it to fly, but you don't always need to. And for a single red, Rakdos Pit Dragon gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So it has classic fire breathing. But also has Hellbent. Rakdos Pit Dragon has double strike as long as you have no cards in hand. Like I said, mana thirsty deck, a lot of big mana costs in here. You can wind up frequently with no cards in hand. Giving us a 3/3 double strike for 4 mana is pretty great. After that, we have Goldspan Dragon, 3 red for a 4/4 dragon with flying and haste. And whenever Goldspan Dragon attacks or becomes the target of a spell, create a treasure token. And treasures you control have tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 2 mana of any one color. So it doubles the value of your treasures. Again, very mana thirsty deck. We want to get all the value we can out of those treasure tokens. Goldspan Dragon is a must. After that is Hoarding Dragon, 3 red for a 4/4 dragon with flying. And when Hoarding Dragon enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card, exile it, then shuffle. When Hoarding Dragon dies, you may put the exiled card into its owner's hand. So you get a bonus tutor for an artifact. We don't have a ton of them in this deck, but there are a few that are very helpful. After that is Opportunistic Dragon, 2 red for a 4/3 dragon with flying. And when Opportunistic Dragon enters the battlefield, choose target human or artifact an opponent controls. For as long as Opportunistic Dragon remains on the battlefield, gain control of that permanent. It loses all abilities, and it can't attack or block. I use this against an opponent's, I forget what the name of the creature was, but it was the one of the in-universe Street Fighter characters. Just take their commander, and now you own it. After that, we have Tyrant's Familiar, 5 red for a 5/5 dragon with flying and haste, and has Lieutenant. As long as you control your commander, Tyrant's Familiar gets +2/+2, and has whenever Tyrant's Familiar attacks, it deals 7 damage to target creature defending player controls. So 7 mana 5/5 flying haste. But if we have Korvold out, it's 7 mana 7/7 flying haste. Attacks the turn it comes down, and you get 7 damage to an opponent's creature. That's a great return. Next up, we have Green Dragon, 4 green for a 4/4 dragon with flying, and Poison Breath. When Green Dragon enters the battlefield, until end of turn, whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt damage, destroy it. I use this with I've just forgotten his name now. The Planeswalker we looked at. One moment. Sarkhan. I played a Green Dragon. Whenever their creatures take damage, they're destroyed. Sarkhan's plus ability deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. Asymmetric board wipe. It was nasty. One of the players scooped and gave up the game on the spot because it's pretty hard to come back from, hey, I have a board full of dragons and nobody can do anything. Next, we have Scaled Nurturer, 1 and a green for a 0/2 dragon druid. You can tap to add a green mana to your pool, and when you spend this mana to cast a dragon creature spell, you gain 2 life. Good little mana dork that gives you an extra bonus if you're using it on dragons. Next up, we have Summon Bahamut, 9 mana, 9/9, flying enchantment creature saga dragon. Doesn't do anything beyond that, except that it is a saga. So these are some of the creatures that were introduced in the Final Fantasy set, the summons. They come down, and as traditional with sagas, they come down with their first lore counter. And then after your draw step, each subsequent turn, they gain an additional lore counter. Once they have enough lore counters to equal the final chapter, They do their thing, and then they're sacrificed. So it is sacrifice is the key word there. Very nice in a Korvold deck, because that means we've got a flying 9/9 that's getting us bonuses, and after it does its final thing, it's helping Korvold. First chapter is destroy up to one target non-land permanent. Anyone you want, any non-land, and it does that for the first 2 chapters. So it comes down, blows something up. Second turn it's out, blows something up. Third turn, third chapter, draw 2 cards. Love drawing cards. And chapter 4 is Mega Flare. This creature deals damage equal to the total mana value of other permanents you control to each opponent. So all of our other permanents, mind you, we're in a high-cost dragon deck, most of them averaging between 4 to 7 mana. You add up that total value, and it just domes your opponents for all of that. Then you sacrifice this, which is going to make Korvold bigger, and draw you a card. Next up is Kolaghan Warmonger, 2 and a red for a 3/2 Ogre Warrior. Rare instance of not dragon. With haste. And whenever Kolaghan Warmonger attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a dragon card from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is helping you keep dragons in your hand. Next up is Dragonlord's Servant, 1 and a red for a 1/3 Goblin Shaman. Dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. You love a cost reduction on expensive creatures. And our final creature of the deck, it's Dragon Speaker Shaman. 1 red for a 2/2 Human Barbarian Shaman. With dragon spells you cast costs 2 less to cast. So if we have both of these out, our dragons are 3 less to cast. That means you're dropping your 7 drops for only 4 mana. And many of them are huge and can be game enders. So you want to try to drop the big costs of your big dragons as quickly as you can. Moving on into the enchantments and artifacts in the deck. We have Fires of Yavimaya. There are 2 different similar iterations of this. I chose Fires of Yavimaya just because it's the thematic one. You got dragons, they breathe fire, Fires of Yavimaya. It's on theme. Fires of Yavimaya here is an enchantment that costs 1 red-green, and creatures you control have haste. There's nothing I like more than being able to use my creatures the turn they come down. And on top of that, at instant speed, you can sacrifice Fires of Yavimaya, and target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Hey, did you just drop a dragon that gives all your dragons double strike? Are you just a little damage off from lethal? Sacrifice Fires of Yavimaya after you've sent them all into combat, and tip the scale. Next up, we have some of our mana ramp stuff. This is Exploration. 1 green mana for an enchantment. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. So there's kind of a little bit of a sub-theme of lands. Not a huge one, but a little bit. Mainly because we want to be able to get a bunch of lands out as quickly as possible. Because, as you've seen, the mana curve in this deck is ridiculous. So you need as much mana as you can possibly get as quickly as possible before your opponents realize the shenanigans you're up to. Next up is Garruk's Uprising, 2 and a green for an enchantment. When Garruk's Uprising enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Most of our dragons start at a baseline 4. And creatures you control have trample. I love that dragons already inherently fly, but giving them trample on top of that is just nice. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So if you drop this when you have a dragon, you draw a card. All your stuff has trample, and now any of those 4 power creatures, drawing more cards. And remember, Korvold also draws cards. It's a great way to keep your hand full. Next up, we have Sarkhan's Unsealing, 3 and a red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 4, 5, or 6, Sarkhan's Unsealing deals 4 damage to any target. And whenever you cast a creature spell with power 7 or greater, Sarkhan's Unsealing deals 4 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. So again, the dragon we saw that had Lieutenant comes down, has +2/+2. That can deal a lot of damage. Next up, we have No Mercy. How do you stay alive in a deck that has such a high mana curve? You have to play some Staxy pieces. So No Mercy here is an enchantment, costs 2 black, and whenever a creature deals damage to you, destroy it. This is one of the best dead stops I've seen for opponents, especially newer players. They don't want to attack you because, well, if I attack, then my creature dies. So they just leave you alone while you amass a board of dragons. Next up, we have Shiny Impetus, because of course, dragons love shiny things. 2 and a red for an enchantment. Aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. So it has to attack each combat, if able, and it has to attack a player other than you. There's nothing in the rules that says you can't enchant your own creature. It just means that they'd be goaded. So you have to attack with them. Well, if you're in a big dragon deck, you probably are attacking every turn anyway. The nice thing is, whenever enchanted creature attacks, you create a treasure token. So whether you enchant your own creature or an opponent's creature, you are the one who makes the treasure token because you are the owner of the Shiny Impetus. So it's a nice little stop piece. Does your opponent have a big creature that you need to stop attacking you? Give them this aura, and now you make treasures. Or boost your own creature and make treasures when they attack. Next up, we have Dragon Mantle, single red mana for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. When Dragon Mantle enters the battlefield, draw a card. So it's a cantrip. It replaces itself. We love that. And enchanted creature has fire breathing, right? Pay a red, this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. I love being able to give fire breathing to any of our dragons because not all of them have it. But the ability to just sink mana into them at instant speed is very nice. Next up, we have Case of the Locked Hothouse, 3 and a green for an enchantment case. So how cases work is you'll always get the first ability. Then you have to solve it, right? You have to solve the case. It tells you how to go about solving the case, the criteria you have to meet. And then once it is solved, the enchantment remains solved for the rest of the game as long as it's in play. And you'll usually get some bonus ability. So in the case of Locked Hothouse here, 3 and a green, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Great. Love that. To solve, you control 7 or more lands. Great. We're dropping tons of lands. We have lots of ways that we want to drop lands. You could get that many lands up very quickly. And once solved, you may look at the top card of your library anytime, and you may play lands and cast creature and enchantment spells from the top of your library. So it now becomes basically a future sight, right? Future sight being an enchantment lets you play off the top of your deck. So now the top of your deck is just an additional card in your hand. And if you play the top, you now get to play whatever the new top is. So even if you have no more cards in hand, your deck now effectively can act as your hand. Next up, we have the saga named for our commander. This is Korvold and the Noble Thief. 3 and a red for an enchantment saga. I've already explained sagas, so we'll just get into the chapters. Chapter 1, you create a treasure token. Treasure is straightforward. You know them, you love them, you tap, sacrifice it, adds a mana of any color. You do that for chapters 1 and 2. So really, this doesn't actually cost 4 mana, because the turn it comes down, it's going to refund you 1 mana in the form of a treasure. The next turn, it refunds you another mana. So kind of, you can think about it like it being 2 mana, almost, because it's going to refund you some. And then Chapter 3, exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library. You may play those cards this turn. So you just get to take your opponent's stuff. And we're in a sacrifice deck. So you can play their best stuff and then sacrifice it to Korvold and make them really, really upset. Next up is Conduit of Worlds, 2 green for an artifact. You may play lands from your graveyard. Like I said, we have a few lands in this deck that sacrifice themselves. So being able to play this with Case of the Locked Hothouse and Exploration, you potentially could use that same sacrifice land 3 times. One of them I'll talk about shortly. And you can tap, choose target non-land permanent card in your graveyard. If you haven't cast a spell this turn, you may cast that card. If you do, you can't cast additional spells this turn, and you activate only as a sorcery. So, again, high mana curve stuff. Maybe we drop one of our big dragons, it does its thing, you sacrifice it to Korvold. Next turn, hey, I'm not casting anything from hand. You tap this, bring back that single-use dragon that you had. Make him continue to be useful. Because even if he dies again, you can just cast him from the graveyard again. Up next is Urza's Incubator, 3 mana artifact. As Urza's Incubator enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Obviously, you pick dragons. Why would you pick any creature type other than dragon? And creature spells of the chosen type cost 2 less to cast. So the dragon that we had that goes and fetches you an artifact, I usually use it to go get Urza's Incubator so that I can sacrifice that dragon, add the incubator to my hand, play it out. Now my dragons are all 2 cheaper. Next up, we have Expedition Map. 1 mana for an artifact. You pay 2, tap, and sacrifice Expedition Map. Search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. My favorite kind of ramp in a sacrifice deck. Then we got Soul Ring. Up next, 1 mana artifact, taps for 2 colorless. You know it, you love it. Soul Ring runs in like every commander deck. We have Commander Sphere, 3 mana artifact, tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. And at instant speed, you can sacrifice Commander Sphere to draw a card. Hey, Korvold loves sacrificing things. We get rewarded when we sacrifice things with Korvold. So now when you sacrifice your Commander Sphere to draw a card, Korvold's going to get a 1/1 counter and draw you another card. And the final artifact, this is Dragon's Horde. Of course, you have to include Dragon's Horde in a dragon deck. 3 mana artifact. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, put a gold counter on Dragon's Horde. You can tap and remove a gold counter from Dragon's Horde to draw a card, or you can tap to add 1 mana of any color. I love the versatility of this, that it is a repeatable card draw, but it's also mana ramp when we need it. All right, moving on into the non-permanent spells. There's quite a few in this deck because we need it. You don't need a ton of dragons if you have good spells to keep you alive until you get a couple really good dragons. So up first we have Dig Up. This is a green mana for a sorcery with Cleave for 1 black green. So you can cast this spell for its Cleave cost instead. And if you do, you remove the words in the brackets. So Dig Up reads, if you're just casting it for a single green, it reads, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. It's a 1 mana ramp, right? Goes and gets you a land. If you're casting it for the 4 mana, it's search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. It becomes a demonic tutor or a diabolic tutor. But I love that there's the versatility of, do you need a land? 1 mana, get a land. Do you need anything else? 4 mana, go get anything else. Next, we have Rebuild the City, 3 and Jund, so 3 black, red, green for a sorcery. Choose target land. Create 3 tokens that are copies of it, except they're 3/3 creatures in addition to their other types, and they have Vigilance and Menace. They are still affected by Summoning Sickness, so you can't tap them for mana, but you are making copies out of lands. So they will still be able to tap for mana on your next turn. So for 6 mana, you just made 3 mana. That aren't bodies. They can block, they can attack. Next, we have World Soul's Rage, X red green for a sorcery. World Soul's Rage deals X damage to any target, and you put up to X land cards from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. So if X is 5, if you're paying 7 mana, you get 5 damage to any target, and you get to put 5 lands into play from your hand or graveyard. I really like World Soul's Rage. I think a lot of people slept on this card because it was in the Murders at Karlov Manor set, which was not super popular with a lot of people. And I think a lot of people missed out. A lot of the Jund players, especially, maybe missed out on this one because it's very, very good. Next up is Cultivate. 2 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards, put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle. It's the classic ramp spell. Speaking of other classic ramp spell, it's Rampant Growth. 1 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Again, we're a very thirsty mana curve, so we want all the ramp. Next is Primal Growth, 2 and a green for a sorcery. With Kicker, sacrifice a creature. We like sacrifice in this deck. You can sacrifice a creature in addition to any other cost to cast the spell with Kicker. So the spell reads, search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It does not say tapped. If Primal Growth was kicked, instead you search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, doesn't say tapped, then shuffle your library. So it is for the price of a Cultivate and a creature, it's a better Cultivate because you get both of them into play untapped. Next, we have Diregraph Rebirth, 3 black green for a sorcery. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature that died this turn. We're in a sacrifice deck. You could make this just a black and a green if you have the right stuff out. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and has a flashback of 5 black green, so you can cast it from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. Mind you, the 1 less to cast still applies to the flashback cost. So gets you something back from the graveyard. Hey, we're in a sacrifice deck. There's got to be some reanimation pieces. Sometimes you're forced to sacrifice something you didn't want to. That's a way to get it back. After that is Squirming Emergence, 1 black-green for a sorcery with Fathomless Descent. Return to the battlefield. Target non-land permanent card in your graveyard with mana value less than or equal to the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. For 3 mana, if we have a 7-drop dragon and we have 7 permanents in the graveyard, 3 mana just gets that 7-drop straight back into play. Next, we have one of the classic split spells. This is Life and Death. Life is 1 mana, 1 green mana rather, for a sorcery. All lands you control become 1/1 creatures until end of turn. They're still lands. And Death, 1 and a black for a sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. You lose life equal to its mana value. 2 mana and some life loss to just get a massive dragon into play from the graveyard. It's pretty great. Next, we have Victimize, 2 and a black for a sorcery. Choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. Sacrifice a creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. Again, we're in a sacrifice deck. Korvold wants things sacrificed. Maybe we have 2 giant dragons in the graveyard. We choose them. We sacrifice a small creature, and we get 2 big dragons back. After that, we have Dread Return, 2 black for a sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Straightforward. You'll love to see it. 4 mana, get something back. But also has flashback, sacrifice 3 creatures. So we can just cast this a second time by sacking 3 creatures and get to return something. Next up, Faithless Looting, red mana for a sorcery, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. And has flashback for 2 and a red. Again, all of the best reanimation stuff in the world doesn't do anything if you don't have good targets in your graveyard. So I really like these cards like Faithless Looting to pitch a big dragon to then reanimate it with a smaller spell. Just like Tormenting Voice here. 1 and a red for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Tormenting Voice, discard a card. You could drop a big dragon into your discard pile, your graveyard rather, and draw 2 cards. And then you cast Death, the death half of Life and Death, and get that big dragon into play. And of course, we have to have Thrill of Possibility, 1 and a red, instant. So it's not a sorcery. This time it's an instant, but same price as Tormenting Voice. Additional cost to cast this, you discard a card to draw 2 cards. Next up is Magma Quake. X red for an instant. Magma Quake deals X damage to each creature without flying and each planeswalker. So if you're paying X equals 5, you get 5 damage to all the non-flyers. Well, we're in a dragon deck, so that doesn't hurt us. So it can be an asymmetric board wipe if you have the mana to dump into it. Next, we have Back for More. This is 4 black-green for an instant. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. When you do, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So, 6 mana, you get to reanimate something and get a free fight out of it. And since you're reanimating bigger dragons, chances are you're probably killing whatever it's fighting. Next up is Rescue from the Underworld, 4 and a black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast Rescue from the Underworld, sacrifice a creature. We love sacrificing in this deck. Choose target creature card in your graveyard, return that card and the sacrificed card to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of your next upkeep. And then you exile Rescue from the Underworld. So you're even getting back the thing that you sacrificed, which is super nice. But it's at your next upkeep. But it's instant speed. So if you hold up the 5 mana going around the turn cycle, maybe the person just before you cast this, you sacrifice something, you get both of those creatures back into play, and they're ready to go on your upkeep. Next up, we have Entish Restoration, 2 and a red for an instant. Sacrifice a land. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, instead search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. I really like Entish Restoration as a ramp spell, because yes, it asks you to sack a land. But in a dragon deck, 4 power is nothing. That's most of the deck's creatures. So you could easily get 3 lands, which pays for the spell and puts you ahead on mana. Next after that is Harrow, 2 and a green for an instant. As an additional cost to cast Harrow, you sack a land. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield. Doesn't say tapped, then shuffle. And after that, we have yet another tutor. This is a bracket 3 deck. Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure it's not 4. I think it's only 3. Yes, it is bracket 3. And the only reason why this deck is bracket 3 is because of Worldly Tutor. Single green mana for an instant, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, then shuffle, put the card on top. This is a game changer. So because of this one card, the deck is bracket 3. And the final spell as we move from here into our lands, this is Korvold Fury. 2 and a red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Korvold's Fury deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target. I love doing this to Korvold once you get him large enough to kill an opponent, and then you just fling Korvold at your other. You just fling Korvold at your other opponent and kill them. And this is one of the modal spells. You can see at the bottom there it says land. So when you play this, you can choose to either play it as a spell, or if you just absolutely need the land, you can play it as Korvold's Cliffs. It's a land, enters the battlefield tapped, and taps for a red mana. But most commonly, you're probably playing this for its fling. I just like having modality in some of my lands and spells. All right, moving into non-basic lands, we have Kenrith, which is a Lord of the Rings reprint of Reflecting Pool. This is a land, taps for 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. So if you have a command tower out, it's a second command tower. But it's kind of cool because A, it's Lord of the Rings, which we've seen a couple Lord of the Rings cards in here, but more so because it's the inverse of Exotic Orchard. Exotic Orchard is up next, and it's a land that taps for a mana of any color that an opponent's land could produce. Excuse me. Goodness. My apologies. So the Reflecting Pool does the inverse of Exotic Orchard. It cares about the colors of mana you can produce. Next up is Path of Ancestry. We've talked about this one a bunch, but it's a land, enters tapped, and you tap to add a mana of any color in your commander's color identity. And if it's spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, you also get to scry one. Then we have Command Tower. You know it, you love it. It's a land, taps for any of your commander's colors. Then we have Crucible of the Spirit Dragon. This is a land that taps for colorless, but you can pay 1 and tap to put a storage counter in Crucible of the Spirit Dragon. Why would I want storage counters? Well, because you can tap and remove X storage counters from Crucible of the Spirit Dragon, and add X mana in any combination of colors. But you spend this mana only to cast dragon spells or activate abilities of dragons. So it's a land that you can stockpile your mana into early game to try to help you get big dragons out in the mid to late game. And speaking of Spirit Dragon, we have Haven of the Spirit Dragon. This is a land that taps for colorless, and you can tap to add 1 mana of any color, but spend this only to cast a dragon creature spell. And you can pay 2 and tap and sacrifice Haven of the Spirit Dragon to return target dragon card, dragon creature card, or Ugin Planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. There's no Ugins in this deck, but being able to get a dragon back from the grave if need be is just kind of nice. Next, we have some of my favorite pieces to play with the Crucible we saw. Evolving Wilds. We've talked about this in almost every episode. It's a land. You tap, sacrifice, evolve, and wild. Search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. And of course, we have Terramorphic Expanse, which does exactly the same thing, but with a different name. And then we have Temple of the False God. The land taps for 2 colorless, but you activate this only if you control 5 or more lands. With how many ramp pieces we have, how many play multiple lands we have in this deck, getting 4 lands before this out is usually pretty easy. And here's the big reason why we have play multiple lands in a turn and let you play lands from the graveyard. That's right, it's Wasteland, because I'm a monster. Wasteland taps for a colorless, or you can tap and sacrifice Wasteland to destroy target non-basic land. Now, I did at one time run Strip Mine, but that is oppressively unfun. Strip Mine does the same thing, except it doesn't have the non-basic determiner in there. You can destroy basic lands. And it sucks out loud when you're playing lands from your graveyard with a Strip Mine, because you can just do what's called strip blocking your opponents, where if you can play 2-3 lands a turn, you play Strip Mine, you sacrifice Strip Mine, you destroy one of their lands, you play it from the graveyard, you do it again and again and again, and because they can only play 1 land a turn, you basically make it so that they can never play lands. I've had it done to me. It sucks. And so I was like, well, I don't want to do exactly that, but we'll put Wasteland so we can destroy their non-basics. Is it still mean? Yes, but it's not as mean as it could be. See? I put brakes on it. Next up is Sulphurous Mire. This is a snowland, swamp mountain, so it taps for a black or a red, and it enters the battlefield tapped. That's kind of this was like the newer fixed duels that they tried to do in Kaldheim. Next, we have Cinder Glade. This is a mountain forest land, so it taps for red or green. And Cinder Glade enters the battlefield tapped, unless you control 2 or more basics. Then we have Gruul Turf. This is the red-green bounce land, so it enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand, and it taps for a red and a green. Next, we have Copperline Gorge. The land enters the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or fewer other lands. So this is the red-green fast land, taps for red or green. And then we have Highland Forest. This is the red-green Kaldheim snow duel. So it's a snowland mountain forest, enters the battlefield tapped, taps for a red or a green. A few more lands to talk about. We have Castle Garenbrig. Again, thirsty mana curve. Castle Garenbrig is really nice to be able to get some of your high mana curve creatures out. Castle Garenbrig is a land that enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a forest. Doesn't have to be basic, which is why we have so many of those duels in there. And taps to add a green, but you can pay 2 green and tap to add 6 green. So for 4 lands, 5 if you include Castle Garenbrig, you can make 6 mana. But you spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. But in high mana curve dragon decks, being able to make 6 mana on 5 lands is pretty great. Next, we have Havenwood Battleground. This is a land. It enters tapped, and you can tap to add a green to your mana pool, or you can tap and sacrifice Havenwood Battleground to add 2 green to your mana pool. Nice little mana accelerant land there. And then we move on into our basics. So we have our basic swamp. These were some of the standard showdown foil lands they did. couple years back. Then we have some of the Commander Master's Old Border lands, another swamp. And then some of the Galaxy Spacix. I really like these. It shows the planet from space. So we got another swamp there. And forest. Old Border Forest in foil. Galaxy Space Basic. The Galaxy Spacix. Now, Galaxy Foil. Just non-foil. Mountain. Another mountain in the Old Border. And, of course, Galaxy Spacix Mountain. There you go. That is our dragon deck. As I said, this deck is a bracket 3. Not a super high salt summary overall. It's a 33.37 according to Archidect, which is pretty well below the median. And if you wanted to get this, all of these exact cards and these exact printings and these exact foilings, the deck was only $4.63 and 4 cents. So if you want to build this deck yourself, you can head on over to Card Kingdom and put one together. But that's for these exact printings. So by all means, there are cheaper printings of these cards out there, and many of them are only a couple dollars these days. There's not a lot of super expensive ones. The most expensive are some of the lands, specifically that Wasteland is one of the most expensive cards in the entire deck. But just don't run it. Find a replacement. Or, don't run Ren in 6. There's a number of things you can do to drop the cost of this deck. And you can drop its bracket easily by just taking Worldly Tutor out. Worldly Tutor is an expensive card and is a game changer. If you run something else in its place, then you can easily keep this deck at a bracket 2. But that is it for the first deck. We are going to take a quick little break there, give everybody a chance to hydrate, hang out, vibe to some music, and we will be right back. Do want to let me post the playlist that we're going to swap on over to. Shout outs to Omega on Deck for his awesome playlist, and shout out to Happy Boy Games for all of the channel theme music that we've been listening to. But about halfway through, we do like to swap over and hear some of Omega's music as well, because he made all of this and was cool and let me use it for the podcast. So we'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break, get up, stretch, hydrate, do all the things, take care of yourself, and we'll see you in just a bit. All right, and we are back. Let's go. Let me adjust this volume a little bit. There we are. Let me, before I forget, for anyone who's hanging out and vibing in the chat that wants to drop a follow to Omega on Deck, who made all of this awesome music we're going to listen to in the back half of the podcast. Sorry, I'm trying to type and talk. There we go. There is a link in the chat there if you want to drop a follow to Omega, who made all of this great music. And I'll try to remember to put a shout out to Happy Boy Games as well, my little brother, who made all of the channel theme music that we were listening to while talking about the Dragon Deck. But let's talk about some knights now. So this deck is affectionately called Five Knights at Kenny's because our commander is Kenrith, the Returned King. It's a Knights deck. This is Kenny, and we're going to meet his five Knights shortly. So Kenrith, the Returned King, is 4 and a white for a legendary human noble, 5/5, with a whole bunch of different abilities. Of course, the creature itself is white, but because of these 5 different abilities, makes it a 5-color commander, which is how this is a 5-color Knights deck. So up first, for a red mana, all creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. This can also be used as a politics piece because it is all creatures, so you can give it to your opponents too. So you can play a little political intrigue by saying, hey, I'll give all your creatures trample and haste if you don't attack me this turn. Things like that. Then for 1 and a green, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Again, its target doesn't have to be yours, so a little political there. 2 and a white, target player gains 5 life. You can save somebody from dying, possibly. 3 and a blue, target player draws a card. And 4 and a black, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. So you have a few different ways and options that you can use those. You can use them to help opponents out, but most commonly you're using them to help yourself. So that is the commander for this deck. And what is a King Arthur without Merlin? We have Rasputin, the Oniromancer. Oniromancer? I'm not entirely sure how you say that second word. But Rasputin here is 1 white blue for a 4/1 legendary human wizard. And when Rasputin enters the battlefield, put a dream counter on it for each opponent you have. Each opponent creates a 1/1 red goblin creature token. And you can tap Rasputin, remove 1 or more dream counters from him, and add that much colorless mana. Or you can tap and remove a dream counter from Rasputin to create a 2/2 white knight creature token with protection from red. So now those goblins can't even do anything. They can't, you can just block their goblin with a 2/2 knight. They can't take damage from it because it has protection. So again, for those who are maybe unfamiliar, protection is cannot be targeted by, dealt damage by, or in any way affected by spells and permanents of that color. So that is Merlin for the purposes of this deck. Continuing on, we have Sidar Jabari of Zalfir, 1 white, blue, black for a 4/3 legendary human knight with Eminence, which is the first time this keyword has appeared since its creation. This was one of the commanders for a deck from March of the Machines, and is, to date, the only time we've seen Eminence besides the couple commanders that they first created Eminence with. And that is, for the purposes of this one, whenever you attack with 1 or more knights, if Sidar Jabari of Zalfir is in the command zone or on the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. So Eminence is an ability that is active if the creature's in the command zone. This one is in our 99, so it really only cares about it being on the battlefield. But you get to loot. You draw a card, discard a card. Get you some card selection. Has flying and first strike, so love that. And then whenever Sidar Jabari deals combat damage to a player, return target knight creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's the real reason why he's here. We get a flying first strike 4/3 that hits somebody, and you get one of your knights back into play for free. Next is Sir Gwyn, Hero of Ashvale. 3 red, white, black for a 5/5 legendary human knight with vigilance and menace. So it has to be blocked by 2 or more creatures. And whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Gets you some card advantage. And equipment you control have equip knight 0. So as long as Sir Gwyn is out, all of your knights can be equipped by any of your equipment for no mana. And of course, there's going to be a decent amount of equipment, because what is a kingdom without a sizable arsenal for its knights? Next is Ganatha New Benalia's Light, 1 green-white for a 2/2 legendary human knight with vigilance, trample, and lifelink. And once during each of your turns, you may cast an aura or equipment spell from your graveyard. So you just, did your opponent destroy one of your good equipment? Hey, just recast it. After that is Adriana, Captain of the Guard, 3 red-white for a 4/4 legendary human knight with melee, which is whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attacked with a creature this combat. So if you have 3 opponents, you send 1 creature at each opponent. This becomes a 7/7. And also, other creatures you control have melee. So all of your creatures are getting that +1/+1 for each opponent you attack. So again, in a 4-player game, if you have 3 opponents, you send 1 creature to each of your opponents. They all get +1/+1 for each of those opponents, so they'd all get +3/+3. Next up, we have Éowyn, Fearless Knight, 2 red-white for a 3/4 legendary human knight with haste. And when Éowyn Fearless Knight enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls with greater power. Legendary creatures you control gain protection from each of that creature's colors until end of turn. The exile is permanent. It's permanently exiled. It's not until she leaves the battlefield. It's when she enters, you exile it, if it has greater power. And then all of your legendaries are protected from that creature's colors until the end of turn. But the exiled creature is permanently gone. She just removes it forever. Next, we have Quende, Pride of Femereth, 3 and a white for a 2/2 legendary human knight with double strike, and creatures you control with first strike have double strike. It's just a nice little bonus. Very often you'll have smaller knights that might have first strike. Being able to give them double strike makes them even better. Then we have Ash, Princess of Dalmasca, 2 and a white for a 3/2 legendary human rebel noble. So not a knight, but she is a princess. Whenever Ash attacks, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So she's not a knight, but she will get you an artifact, hopefully, into hand. And is not a bad stat line, 3/2 for 3 mana. Next up is Adeline Resplendent Cathar, 1 white for a star 4 legendary human knight with vigilance. Adeline Resplendent Cathar's power is equal to the number of creatures you control. And whenever you attack, for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. So baseline, she's a 1/4 because she counts herself. But when you attack, you make 3 1/1s. So she would be a 4/4 in a 4-player game, just by her attacking. Next, we are going to have a look at one of the 5 knights of Kenny's fame. This is Sir Alan the Lion's Claw. 3 white for a 4/4 legendary human knight with first strike. And whenever Sir Alan the Lion's Claw attacks, other creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. The second knight at Kenny's, we have Sir Farron the Hengehammer. Green for a 2/2 legendary human knight. And whenever Sir Farron the Hengehammer attacks, another target attacking creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Sir Farron's power. So, great target to throw a couple of equipment on, make them huge, and then something else gets equally big. The third knight, Sir Kara the Bold. 3 red for a 3/3 legendary human knight. With whenever Sir Kara the Bold or an instant or sorcery spell you control deals damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. So you get a little impulse draw, and you can tap, and Sir Kara deals 1 damage to any target. So she can fuel that herself. You don't even have to send her into combat. You can just tap her, deal a damage to an opponent. You get to exile the top card of your library, and you can play it this turn. The fourth knight, we talked about him in the previous deck. This is Sir Conrad the Grim. 3 black for a 5/4 legendary human knight with whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. And for 1 and a black, each player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. This was the printing before they had fully codified mill as a term. So that second ability just reads, each player mills a card. And the fifth knight of the 5 knights at Kenny's, this is Sir Eleonora the Discerning. 3 blue for a *4 legendary human knight. With Sir Eleonora the Discerning's power is equal to the number of cards in your hand. When Sir Eleonora enters the battlefield, draw a card, and spells your opponent's cast that target Sir Eleonora cost 2 more to cast. So, a little harder for them to target remove. And depending on how many cards you have in hand, can be quite large. If you've got a full grip of 7, that's a 7/4 for 5 mana. Next, we're going to look at the non-legendaries in the deck. So that was just legendaries, which was a decent little stack there. Here's our non-legendary creatures. Up first is Corpse Knight. White and a black for a 2/2 zombie knight. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. This card was famously known as 2/3 or not to 3. That is the question, because when it was very first printed, it had a misprint that made it into product, and the card was mistakenly printed as a 2/3 and not a 2/2. But little punishment for opponents just for you playing creatures. Next, we have Wintermoor Commander, white and a black for a 2-star human knight with Death Touch. Wintermoor Commander's toughness is equal to the number of knights you control, so it comes down as a 2/1 just by itself, but could be larger. And whenever Wintermoor Commander attacks, another target knight you control gains indestructible until end of turn. So anything that says destroy doesn't destroy it. Damage can't destroy it. Nice little bonus. You could send this little Death Toucher in with something and make the other thing indestructible. Next, we have Worthy Knight, 1 and a white for a 2/2 human knight. With whenever you cast a night spell, create a 1/1 white human creature token. You just make more bodies by casting knights. And we have Acclaimed Contender, 2 and a white for a 3/3 human knight. When Acclaimed Contender enters the battlefield, if you control another knight, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a knight, aura, equipment, or legendary artifact card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you get a bonus just by having a second knight out. Then we have Thalia's Lancers up next, 3 white for a 4/4 human knight with first strike. And when Thalia's Lancers enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a legendary card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So any legendary. Then we have Knight of the White Orchid, white for a 2/2 human knight with first strike. Again, these are all the payoffs for that Quende we saw. When Knight of the White Orchid enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a Plains card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. You get some mana ramp just by playing Knights. After that is Valiant Knight, 3 and a white for a 3/4 human knight. Other knights you control get +1/+1. Love having a lord in the deck. And for 3 white, knights you control gain double strike until end of turn. Nice little mana sink ability there that could potentially end the game. Next is Riders of Gavany, 2 white for a 3/3 human knight with vigilance. As Riders of Gavany enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Human creatures you control have protection from creatures of the chosen type. Is your opponent in a vampire deck? You could choose a vampire. Now all of your knights have protection from vampires. Next up is Heronblade Elite. We've talked about this one a little bit last episode when we talked about our humans deck. This card was known as Hugh Marwyn because it does similar to Marwyn the Nurturer, but is a human. So Heronblade Elite is 2 and a green for a 1/1 human warrior with vigilance, and whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Heronblade Elite. And you can tap to add X mana of any one color, where X is Heronblade Elite's power. Next, we have Fervent Champion, red mana for a 1/1 human knight with first strike and haste. And whenever Fervent Champion attacks, another target attacking knight you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. But equip abilities you activate that target Fervent Champion cost 1 less to activate, or cost 3 less to activate. So you have a perfect target for early game equipment. Next, we have Imidane's Recruiter, 2 and a red for a 2/2 human knight. With when Imidane's Recruiter enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. But also has an adventure. So we have Train Troops, which is a sorcery adventure for 4 and a white. Create 2/2 white knight creature tokens with vigilance. So again, adventure was a mechanic that came out with the original Throne of Eldraine set. They brought back for the Wilds of Eldraine, but you can cast the adventure portion of a card. The card, then the spell resolves, the card goes into exile on an adventure, and you can cast the main portion of that card from exile after that. So you get double use out of them. Next up is Embereth Shieldbreaker, 1 and a red for a 2/1 human knight. Pretty straightforward, but has a adventure battle display. A single red mana for a sorcery, destroy target artifact. And we have Ardenvale Tactician, 1 white for a 2/3 human knight with flying, but has an adventure called Dizzying Swoop. For 1 and a white, we have an instant that says tap up to 2 target creatures. After that is Smitten Swordmaster, 1 and a black for a 2/1 human knight with lifelink, and has Curry Favor as an adventure. For a single black mana, we have a sorcery that says you gain X life, and each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of knights you control. Nice little life swap there. If you have a board full of knights, you can spend 1 black mana and suddenly make a huge life swing. Next, we have Grand Architect. This is 1/2 of an infinite combo that is in the deck. Grand Architect is 1 blue for a 1/3 Vidalcan Artificer. Other blue creatures you control get +1/+1. You can pay a single blue mana and target artifact creature becomes blue until end of turn. And you can tap an untapped blue creature you control to add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. So, you tap untapped blue creatures to add colorless, 2 colorless specifically, but it can only be spent on artifacts and artifact abilities. But you can pay a blue to make an artifact creature blue until end of turn. So with this card and Pilipala, it's infinite mana. Why do we want infinite mana? Well, because we have a number of things that Kenrith loves to dump mana into. And so if you have those 2 out, you should be able to win the game. Pilipala is 2 mana for a 1/1 artifact creature scarecrow with flying, and pay 2 untap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So this is a rare untap symbol that you don't see very often. So how this works, Grand Architect, Pilipala. You don't even need haste on either of them. You pay a blue mana, Pilipala becomes blue until end of turn. Then Grand Architect says you can tap a blue creature to add 2 colorless to your pool. Well, Pilipala is now blue, so we just tap Pilipala to add 2 colorless to our pool. But Pilipala says pay 2 colorless and untap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So you tap Pilipala, adds 2 colorless. You use that 2 colorless to untap Pilipala to add 1 mana of any color, and then you just repeat that. You now have infinite mana of all colors that you want, that you can dump into Kenrith to draw your entire deck, reanimate all of your creatures from your graveyard, put infinite 1/1 counters on them, gain infinite life, and then all said and done, you give them all trample and haste until end of turn. So if you have Pilipala, the Grand Architect, and Kenrith out, well, technically, you just need these 2. If you have these 2 out, you can cast Kenrith off of all that mana, and then draw your entire deck, play everything, and win the game. And then we have a couple 5-color creatures. I just like the look of them and thought it was fun to have a couple 5-drop Wooburg creatures. So this is Maelstrom Archangel, white, blue, black, red, green, for a 5/5 angel with flying. And whenever Maelstrom Archangel deals combat damage to a player, you may cast a spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. That's just great. Free spells. And then we have Manticore, also Wooburg, white, blue, black, red, green, for a 4/4 enchantment creature Manticore, but also has Bestow for 2 and Wooburg, so 2 white, blue, black, red, green. If you cast this for its Bestow cost, it's an aura spell with enchant creature. So this then enchants another creature and gives all of its abilities. Kind of like we saw with the Mutate mechanic in the dinosaur deck, the Animar deck we did a couple episodes ago. And Crow Manticore here has flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, lifelink. When it enchants a creature, enchanted creature gets +4/+4, which is the power and toughness of Crow Manticore, and has flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, and lifelink. So you for 5 mana, you get a 4/4 with all these keywords, or for 7 mana, you get to give something +4/+4 and all those keywords. Why is there 2 5-color creatures in there? There's an artifact that we have in this deck that's kind of fun, but we'll get there. So we're going to move on now and have a look at all of the various artifacts in the deck, starting with our legendary equipments. Up first, we have Ember Cleave. This is 4 red, red for a legendary artifact equipment with flash, so you can cast it at instant speed. And this spell casts 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. So if you're attacking with 4 creatures, it only costs you red, red. When Ember Cleave enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. So instant speed, and you get to snap it on something immediately. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, has double strike, and trample. So it's a combat trick on a sword, and equips for 3 mana. That's if you want to move it off of the thing that it was equipped to, or maybe re-equip it if the creature died. But it's a combat trick equipment. Next up, we have Sword of the Animist, 2 mana for a legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and whenever equipped creature attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle, and equips for 2, or in a 5-color deck. So you really want to be able to get all of your colors into play as quickly as possible. Next, we have the One Ring, because of course, there's a subtle joke in this deck, and that is we call it Five Nights at Kenny's, but really a bunch of the equipment in this deck are rings. So Kenny is a lord, and these are his rings. It's Lord of the Rings. The One Ring is a 4-mana legendary artifact with indestructible, and when the One Ring enters, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn, so you get a round to just chill. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on the One Ring. You can tap, put a burden counter on the One Ring, then draw a card for each burden counter on the One Ring. So progressively you draw more cards, but you will lose more life. And this is the newest printing of it, the Dan Fraser One Ring, that kind of got Dan in some hot water, because apparently the artwork was copied from another artist's version of the One Ring. But I just want to play the One Ring. Next, we have Anduril Narsil Reforged, another Lord of the Rings card. 2 mana, legendary artifact equipment with Ascend. So if you have 10 or more permanents in play, or as soon as you get your 10th permanent, you gain the city's blessing. It is something that exists outside the game. Once you have the city's blessing, you can never lose it. You have it for the rest of the game. Whenever equipped creature attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Great. But if you have the city's blessing, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control instead, and equips for 3. So it just boosts your whole board every time the equipped creature attacks. After that, we have Anduril Flame of the West. 3 mana legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +3/+1. And whenever equipped creature attacks, create 2 tapped 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. If that creature is legendary, instead create 2 of those tokens that are tapped and attacking. So, equipped creature, make 2 1/1 white spirits tapped with flying. If it's on a legendary creature, those tokens come in tapped and attacking. So this is great to put on, like, oh, I've forgotten her name now. We just saw her. Adeline. If you put this sword on Adeline, it turns Adeline into a 4/5 base just by herself. And then when she attacks, she's going to make a 1/1 white human creature token, tapped and attacking for each opponent. So that's going to make her a 7/5. But because she's legendary, she's also making 2 1/1 spirits. So that makes her a 9/5. 9/5 with vigilance that just made you 5 extra bodies. It's pretty great. And Andoril here equips for only 2 mana. So it costs 3 to cast, but equips for only 2. Next, we have Paladin's Arms. 2 and a white for an artifact equipment with job select. So when you cast this equipment, you make a 1/1 colorless hero creature token that this attaches to. The equipped creature gets +2/+1 and has ward 1, so anything that targets it is countered unless they pay an extra 1. Anything of your opponents, I should say. And is a knight in addition to its other types. And equips for 4. So 3 mana, you're getting a 3/2 with ward 1. That's a knight. And our deck cares about having knights. So now you can make anything a knight. You could put this on Kenrith, and now he's a knight. Next, we have Robe of Stars, 1 and a white for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +0/+3. This equips for 1 and has Astral Projection. For 1 and a white, equipped creature phases out. So you treat it and anything attached to it as though they don't exist until its controller's next turn. So this is great protection to drop on, say, Kenrith. If your opponents keep trying to target him with removal, you could just pay 2 mana and he phases out. So he'll just be out of play until your next turn. And here's why we have Sir Gawain. This is Colossus Hammer. 1 mana for an artifact equipment, equips for 8. But equipped creature gets +10/+10 and loses flying. With Sir Gawain out, knights have equipped 0. So for 1 mana, you could give one of your creatures +10/+10. It's kind of nasty. Moving through, we have more of the rings, because it's the Lord of the Rings. This is Ring of Zathrid, 2 mana artifact equipment, equips for 1. You can pay 2 and regenerate equipped creatures. So the next time the creature would be destroyed, it isn't. And instead, you tap it and remove all damage from it and remove it from combat. So if it's in combat, it's about to die, you can pay 2, cool. It's just going to stay tapped and be regenerated. But at the beginning of your upkeep, you put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature if it's black. So just by equipping it to a black creature, it's going to get +1/+1 on your upkeep, a counter. So if it wasn't clear, this is why it's the 5 Knights at Kenny's, because there's a cycle of these rings, and they match with the 5 different Sirs of each color. Next is Ring of Valkus, 2 mana, artifact equipment, equips for 1. Equipped creature has haste. Great. At the beginning of your upkeep, you put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature if it's red. So there's the red ring. Next is Ring of Thune, 2 mana, artifact equipment, equips for 1. Equipped creature has vigilance. Beginning of your upkeep, you put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature if it's white. There's our white ring. And we have Ring of Colonia, 2 mana, artifact equipment, equips for 1. Equipped creature has trample. And at the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature if it's green. So our green ring. And Ring of Evos Isle, 2 mana, artifact equipment, equips for 1. You can pay 2, and equipped creature gains hexproof until end of turn. And at the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature if it's blue. So there's the blue ring. So amongst those 5 rings and the 1 ring, we have the 1 ring to rule them all. 5 rings, the 5 knights. You see hopefully see the theme. Next, we have Lightning Greaves, 2 mana, artifact equipment. Equipped creature has haste and shroud and equips for 0. You gotta have some boots in an equipment deck. And we have Whisper Silk Cloak, 3 mana, artifact equipment. Equipped creature is unblockable and can't be the target of spells or abilities. It just makes them unblockable, and they have Shroud. But this was before Shroud had been codified. And equips for 2. Next, we have the Heirloom Blade, 3 mana, artifact equipment, equips for 1. An equipped creature gets +3/+1. Whenever equipped creature dies, you may reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with it. Put that card into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So great to put on a knight, send them into combat. Did the knight die? Cool. Just reveal cards till you hit a knight and put it in your hand. Next, we have Masterwork of Ingenuity. 1 mana artifact equipment. You may have Masterwork of Ingenuity enter the battlefield as a copy of any equipment on the battlefield. So now we can have 2 Colossus Hammers, if necessary. And the final ring, the Ring of 3 Wishes. 5 mana artifact. Ring of 3 Wishes enters the battlefield with 3 wish counters on it. You can pay 5 and tap and remove a wish counter from Ring of 3 Wishes to search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle. So you get 5 mana, you get this ring, you pay another 5, and you get a tutor for anything you want. And you can do that up to 3 times. And of course, I had to play into the joke because we have the 5 different colored rings. They all have stones. And if you get Grand Architect and Pilly Palette, you make infinite mana. And of course, you want to play your stones if you have infinite mana. But what if you could put those infinite stones into a gauntlet? This is Fist of Suns. It's a 3 mana artifact. Says you pay Wooburg less rather than pay the mana cost for. You may pay Wooburg rather than pay the mana cost for spells you cast. So this now turns our full deck into Wooburg. This deck used to run things that could drop spells by Wooburg. I took that out because it's a little oppressive. But that's why we also have the Wooburg creatures, just to lean into the theme of like, hey, if you get 1 of each mana, you can cast anything in the deck. Next, we have yet another ring, Arcane Signet, 2 mana, artifact, taps for a mana of any color in your commander's color identity, which is all 5 in this deck. The Gilded Lotus, 5 mana artifact. You tap to add 3 mana of any one color, because there's some color thirsty pips in some of our creatures. Then Soul Ring, of course, you know it, you love it. 1 mana artifact, taps to add 2 colorless to your mana pool. That's all the artifacts. And now we're going to have a look at the enchantments and non-permanent spells. So up first we have Maelstrom Nexus. Cost Wooburg, white, blue, black, red, green for an enchantment. The first spell you cast each turn has Cascade. Great. Casting spells gets us into more free spells. We have Knight's Charge. 1 black, white for an enchantment. Whenever a knight you control attacks, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Love draining them just for attacking. And you can pay 6 white, black, and sacrifice Knight's Charge to return all knight creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So 8 mana. 8 mana total. But you could just return all of your knights to play. Did you get board wiped and want your creatures back? 8 mana. You can get it. And then you pay a red with Kenrith. Now they all have haste. Next we have Prismatic Omen. 1 and a green for an enchantment. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. Look at that. We have the card that makes all of our spells Wooburg. So now it doesn't matter what lands we have out. Now they're all 5 color lands. All the basics, I should say. Next we have Rising of the Day. 2 and a red for an enchantment. Creatures you control have haste, and legendary creatures you control get +1/+0. Great. We want to have haste. Let's just have haste for free. And legendaries are bigger now. Next up is Training Grounds. Single blue mana for an enchantment. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana. Hey, Kenrith's abilities have colorless costs. and some of them cost more than 2. So with Training Grounds, it would reduce the 3 in a blue target player draws a card to 1 in a blue. I love paying 2 mana to draw a card. I could pay a single white mana and gain 5 life. I could pay a single green mana and put a 1/1 counter on my creatures. Or pay 2 in a black for 3 mana, return one of my creatures from the graveyard to play. Training Grounds is great, and it'll never reduce the cost to less than 1 because it has a color pip. So this will never reduce below its requirements. Next, we have Kodama's Reach, some classic ramp. 2 and a green for Sorcery Arcane. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put 1 onto the battlefield, tap, and the other into your hand, then shuffle. Cultivate, 2 and a green sorcery, does the same thing. Search your library for 2 basic lands, reveal them, put 1 onto the battlefield, tap, the other in your hand. Rampant Growth, 1 and a green sorcery, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Farseek, 1 and a green for a sorcery, search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. It does not say basic. You can get non-basic lands with this, which is great for mana fixing. Then we have Reckless Handling, 1 and a red for a sorcery, search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle, then discard a card at random. If an artifact was discarded this way, Reckless Handling deals 2 damage to each opponent. So it's kind of like Gamble, the red tutor that we've seen before. Costs an extra mana, but also has the, oh, did you discard an artifact? Not even necessarily the one you went to get. Did you discard an artifact? Well, you get 2 damage to each opponent. So at least you're getting something for it. Then we have Open the Armory, 1 and a white for a sorcery. Search your library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Just tutors up an equipment. Next, we have Cleansing Nova, 3 white for a sorcery. Choose 1, destroy all creatures, or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Need a little modality. Is your opponent in an artifact deck and you're full of creatures? Blow up their stuff and swing in with your creatures. But we also saw Knight's Charge, which lets us return all of our knights. So you could Cleansing Nova, clear the entire board, and then pay a little more mana and get all your knights back. Then we have Drag to the Bottom, 2 black for a sorcery with Domain. So each creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is 1 plus the number of basic land types among lands you control. So if we have all 5 basic land types, every creature is -6. That's going to clear most of the board. But if you've got enough equipment on something, your stuff could survive. All right, and now we're moving on into the lands. We're going to look at our non-basic lands first. Up first, we have Terramorphic Expanse. Listen, it's in every deck that's in multiple colors should run Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds. It's a land, tap, sacrifice it, go get a basic land, put it into play tapped. Then shuffle. Evolving Wilds does exactly the same thing with a different name. And we have Mount Doom, because of course we do. We have the One Ring. You have to have Mount Doom, or it's a flavor fail. This is a legendary land. You tap and pay a life to add a black or red. Then you can pay 1 black-red and tap, and Mount Doom deals 1 damage to each opponent. Or you can pay 5 black-red, tap, and sacrifice Mount Doom and a legendary artifact, and choose up to 2 creatures, then destroy the rest. Activate only as a sorcery. So the idea behind it, you choose Mount Doom and the One Ring. You pick 2 creatures, everything else dies, right? Frodo, Sam, and everything else is gone, right? Next, we have Mana Confluence. This is a land you tap, pay a life, add a mana of any color. Command Tower taps for a color of any in our commander's color identity. Exotic Orchard taps for a color of any land that an opponent's land could produce. Path of Ancestry enters tapped. You tap for a mana of any color in your commander's identity, and if it shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. Our deck is full of humans. Kenrith is a human. Tournament Grounds, which is a land tapped to add colorless, and you can tap to add red, white, or black, but spend this only to cast a knight or an equipment spell. Sandstep Citadel is a land, enters the battlefield tapped, and you tap to add white, black, or green to your mana pool. Nomad Outpost enters tapped and taps to add red, white, or black to your pool. Savage Lands enters tapped. You tap to add black, red, or green. Seaside Citadel enters tapped, and you tap to add green, white, or blue. Opulent Palace enters tapped, and you tap to add green, black, or blue. Savai Triome, which is one of 2 triomes in this deck. This is a land, mountain, plain, swamp, so you can go get this with Farseek. Taps to add red, white, or black. Enters the battlefield tapped, but also has cycling for 3. So late game, you could pay 3 mana, discard this, and draw a card. If you just don't need the land anymore. Then we have Zagoth Triome. This is a swamp forest island. You could also get this with Farseek. Taps to add black, green, or blue. Enters tapped and has cycling for 3. Temple of Triumph enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters, you scry 1, and it taps to add red or white. And Krosan Verge enters the battlefield tapped, taps for colorless, and you can pay 2, tap, and sacrifice Krosan Verge. Search your library for a forest and a plains card. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Hey, look at that. Krosan Verge has us get a forest and a plains. Well, Zagoth Triome happens to be a swamp forest island, and Savai Triome is a mountain plain swamp. So Krosan Verge could go get these 2 triomes. That's the synergy why Krosan Verge. It can just go get the 2 triomes that are in the deck. Because it doesn't have to be basic. And then into our basic lands. So I do like to try and match, if you haven't noticed, I try to match my basic lands across sets for the different colors. We saw that in the last deck with matching set releases. So here we have the Chocobo Track Plains, Lord of the Rings Plains, other Lord of the Rings Plains. All the basics are in foil in this deck, just because I like shiny cards. There's Island Chocobo Track. Island from Lord of the Rings. Other Island from Lord of the Rings. Chocobo Track Swamp. Lord of the Rings Swamp. Second Lord of the Rings Swamp. Chocobo Mountain. Lord of the Rings Mountain. Second Lord of the Rings Mountain. And shocking nobody, Chocobo Forest. Lord of the Rings Forest. And a Lord of the Rings Forest. And that's all the lands. And that's all the cards in this deck. So that's the two decks that we have to talk about today. Break down the stats on the Five Nights at Kenny deck. This is a bracket 4 deck. The One Ring is a game changer. I think that is the that is the only game changer in the deck. But because there is a 2-card infinite combo, that also increases its bracket rating. So it is a bracket 4. Is it going to hold pace with most bracket 4 decks? Maybe not. But it's fun and it's flavorful. The salt summary on it is a bit higher than the last one at a 34.58. And for all of the exact printings of the cards that you saw in the deck, it can be yours for $573.18, according to the price based on Card Kingdom. But I will tell you that 200 of that is the One Ring, because the One Ring is a stupid expensive card. It like doesn't have cheap printings. The cheapest one I think is like $50-$60. The Mana Confluence land is also a pricey version because it was from a secret layer. But let's be honest, who's actually buying the exact singles for a card? Most Magic players aren't. You are collecting these over many years and building decks for fun. But I just like to give those stats to people because people have asked. They've asked me, hey, how expensive is that deck? And I'm like, well, you can, click the links, which, by the way, as a reminder, you can find the deck lists for both of the decks that we talked about tonight are pinned in the message at the top of chat. But they will also be in the description down below for the VODs of this episode on both Twitch and on YouTube if you want to check out the Architect list pages for yourself. You can head on over there and have a look-see at them. That's been another episode of Such a Brew About Nothing. I do want to thank you so very much for watching. I really do appreciate you. Let's go find a friend to raid, shall we? You're going to see a couple things popping up in the chat there, both the raid message and the sub raid. We do like to share the positivity and the comfy cozy vibes with another streamer here on Twitch. And that is going to be, I don't think, normally we raid out to our guru, Team Evil 1991. I believe he's at a convention this weekend, so he hasn't been streaming. But we'll find another friend out. Oh, you know what? Paragon DVP is streaming right now. He's playing some Saboteur. We're going to go raid him tonight and go share all of the love and positivity with him. Again, thank you so very much for watching, friends. It has been my absolute pleasure being your entertainment this evening. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and do look out for me very soon at MagicCon Atlanta in November. It's like mid-November. Thank you to Wizards of the Coast because they selected me as part of their New Perspectives program. So they're having me come out and check out MagicCon. So I'm very excited for that and do want to really, truly show them a lot of appreciation. So if you're going to be at MagicCon Atlanta and you know who I am, come say hello. I'll shake your hand. I'll give you a hug. We'll play a game of Magic together. How about that? But until that time, friends, I've been Tryon. You've been amazing. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you again real soon. Good night, everybody.